following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
They ain't wearing Christmas.
Good evening. Welcome to the Couchcasters podcast. I am your host for the evening. As with me, as always, Mr. Fonzie, Scott Fonzie, and the Murph, Hunter Murphy. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Can't complain. I know it's been quite a while since we have reconvened on a couple games. Lots happened. After the Missouri game, I know it was kind of up in the air to see exactly where our Alabama season was going to go. And then 2 weeks later, we handled LSU and we did business against Mercer. So we are right in the thick of things right now, and it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see, gentlemen. Exciting to see.
Right where we need to be.
Exactly.
Going into these next two games. Kind of similar to last year too. It took us a while to find our groove and find an identity, but they did that and it worked. So excited to see how far this team can go. Selfishly, I hope we miss out on the SEC championship. I'm sure we'll talk about that more here. But anyway,
I feel like that's
happy
a big
with
thing.
How they're playing and where they are.
Mm-hmm. Hunter, you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of watch the chaos that is college football now, as well as drilling down into the chaos that is the SEC conference. And in a way, we've almost benefited from the chaos, and now as we get closer to the SEC championship, it might bite us. If we make it and then lose, what does that mean? Do we become the Georgia of last year, where their case is a little bit different, but they went undefeated and then lost, and that was it for them. You're done.
Yeah, that's heck, look at just the landscape of college football this year. Florida State's a prime example. They went undefeated, and now they've won one game whole season. And I don't expect it to get. I don't expect them to win another game. So they've got two left, and to go from an undefeated season and then losing your bowl game to this is, as you said, Hunter, it's today's college football, the age we live in. And, age of the transfer portal, NIL. I mean, there was ones, I know we haven't really talked about a couple of them a couple of weeks ago. For Alabama, Keanu Cott had gotten suspended, and we weren't really given a reason why. And I had mentioned to y'all, I was like, y'all watch this. He's going to enter the transfer portal. And it was known today. He let everyone know that he is putting his letter of intent to enter the transfer portal, and he'll have 2 years of eligibility left to go play wherever he wants to. So, things happen, and, I think there might have been a slight jab at him today from one of our current players. I won't mention who it is, but if you really want to go find it out, Twitter or X, as you may call it nowadays, you can go do some deep digging and find out who it was. But the statement was, if you're with us, you're with us. If you're not, see you later. The door's right there. So it kind of goes back to what Malachi Moore said in that Michigan game. If you ain't wearing crimson, you know the rest. So
yeah, I don't think Cott's. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think he's too much. When was his last snap? To be honest,
it had been a couple weeks ago. I mean, It was prior to the suspension,
but not a lot. I think he appeared in 5 games. I don't think he had much of a choice at this point, to be honest. But
my 2 cents
like
on
you
it
said,
is I
when
think
was
he
his
got in
last
trouble.
snap? He didn't really contribute, and clearly there was some off the field issues, I would assume. So, he won't be wearing the A next year. And like I said, that might be by design. He may not have had a spot on the team if he came back,
Right.
Yeah, if he's not playing and he's just a toxic, in the locker room, then get rid of him,
Yep.
And he might not be,
Yeah, it could be wrong.
I'm speculating. So, anyway.
Hey, that's what we're here for. Each person's got their own opinion on it. In my own opinion, and again, it is my own opinion, nobody else here probably agrees with it, that I think he was talking with other teams and the staff and everybody got wind of it, and that's why they suspended him. And he was like, well, I don't really have an option now. Or it could have been the playing time issue too. So I really don't know, but, is what it is. Good luck. I hope there's greener grass on the other side. Wish you the best of luck. On to the next, business as usual, as I say. So, other than that, I mean, looking at it, I know we talked a little bit about, where we stand as today. I think, what are we at? We're 9-2? No, I'm sorry. We're 8-2, 8-2, 2 games left. Oklahoma this weekend at Oklahoma, 6:30 p.m. I'm not a big fan of the night game there. They're a team that is trending kind of upwards, but if you catch them in a bad day, they're a team that also can turn the ball over quite a bit, and we have been ravaging some turnovers on defense. This is exactly what I was talking about at the beginning of the season. I want to see turnovers. I want to see us be able to make turn points off turnovers, and we really. I'd say the first half of the season we struggled. We would get the turnovers, but couldn't. Thank you, Hunter. Yeah, we couldn't capitalize on it. I was like, we in the Tennessee game, we could have easily been up a couple touchdowns, but then again, so could have they in those situations too. So I'm just glad that we're seeing the trend change. But as far as aggressiveness on the defensive side, we have we're coming to play. And we mean business coming to play. And you know what? I would put our defense against anybody right now. I really would, with how they're playing. I knew the injury to Hugh Robinson that sucked. That was not great. But it's tough to say it. But next man up. Got to do what you got to do. Got to fill in the gap. And they kind of responded. I know it was against Mercer, but. Everybody said earlier in the week, Alabama needs to watch out for this Mercer team. They're 9-1. They're 8th or 9th in the FCS, about to go into their playoffs. I was like, okay, this is FBS. This big boy football. Let's see what we're made of. And answer was 52-7. So enough on that.
Yeah,
I'm glad you. Sorry, go ahead, Murph.
You go ahead, Scott. You start.
Glad you highlighted the turnovers because that's been a massive issue for Oklahoma this year. I think they have 13 lost fumbles, thrown 5 interceptions, but their quarterback play has been borderline inept most of the year. I mean, they're the worst offense in the SEC. So I think this is a good game to kind of just go in there and dominate, keep the train rolling. Don't overlook them. I just, Oklahoma is not the Oklahoma we're used to, and that's very evident. They're 1-5 in conference play. Whole mess of issues, especially on the offensive side of the ball. This has the makings of a game that we can just go in, blow them out, on to the next, keep the train rolling. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but they're struggling. Mm-hmm. They're struggling real bad, and they've played Texas, they've played Ole Miss. I think they played Tennessee as well earlier in the year. They just haven't been able to compete in those games. So I don't see a way they win. I feel good about this one. I don't know how you guys feel, but the defense in particular, I think, can continue to build on the success they've been having recently. Obviously, they shut out Missouri. LSU, they had a really, really good game, I thought. I went back and watched that one. Mercer's Mercer, got good reps, looked good there, didn't make any crucial mistakes, no injuries. I mean, this is just the kind of a trend-setting game. Go into the Iron Bowl, kick some ass, see where we are in 2 weeks. I don't know. I think this is going to be a big win for Alabama this weekend.
Roll Tide to that.
Yeah, I think both of you are right. Where you certainly can never sleep on any team. Certainly after this season, nobody's safe. Even Oklahoma could pull an upset. But they have had a rough transition, to say the least, into the SEC. So it should be easy to handle. The night game, home game, certainly, or night game, away game for us is certainly a factor. You got to keep in play. And you can nitpick the games that we've had with LSU and Mizzou and maybe not Mercer. Mercer was pretty clean. But hopefully it's like an LSU situation. I know they had a lot of people out that game, especially on defense. But hopefully if we can turn over the ball and capitalize on it, that's key. Then I think we'll be just fine.
Agreed.
Well said.
Couldn't put it better myself there, Murph. Couldn't put it better myself. But yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with any of those statements. I mean, it's did I think it would be this exciting, there to be this much unknown or this much chaos to the end of this? It wasn't just the season, but within the SEC. I mean, last week before the Mercer game, before LSU lost to Florida, which I am still completely just shocked about that happened, but stranger things. However, there was a 4-way tie. If they were if everybody ended the season and the two people go into the SEC champion, or the two teams that go into the SEC championship, there was going to be 4 or 5 teams that were 10-2.
In the SEC, it's going to be an 8-way tie.
It was insane. And you're looking at it, and we're looking at it like this. All right, the SEC championship game had helped many SEC teams, Alabama in particular, to get into numerous playoffs or the BCS championship. Now you look at it as, well, if Alabama wins out, there's a chance that we go to Atlanta and we have to play an A&M or a Texas. And looking at it, you're like, well, if both of those teams, let's say, have 2 losses. Well, actually they would, because Texas A&M does have a second loss. But both of them have 2 losses meeting. Winners getting in. They're getting a first round bye into the playoff. Where does the loser go? They'd have a 3rd loss. They don't make the playoff, and they get screwed because they go to their championship game and lose. From what I'm seeing,
I don't think they'll do that. I'm just going to say it right now. I don't think we even need to dwell on it. I don't think the 2 teams that play in the SEC championship are going to be, or I don't think the loser of the SEC championship is going to be left out.
And I hope you're right. I really do. But it makes me angry to like, and we have beat this into a pulp about people playing in conferences. Notre Dame, that has got to. I know they took a big deal, TV deal, yada yada yada. But this is not the 1940s. All right, brand can only get you so far. So I see a major change. Obviously, it's going to happen within 2 years, because the current format is only for 2 years versus the first format of 4 teams was 10. There's going to be a situation where this is expanded again, maybe 16. I don't know. But the problem is they need to be in a conference. I don't care if it's the ACC, the Big Ten. Brand recognition, that can only carry you so far. You've got to play some more competition. I mean, heck, one of their best out of state or out of their realm competition was a win at Texas A&M early in the season. I'll give them that. But you're playing a terrible USC team. They are just they don't have a pulse. They're on their second quarterback because everybody talked about how good Miller Moss was at the beginning of the season. This guy's going to win the Heisman. He's not even starting now. So things have got to change on that stuff. That grinds my gears, but not enough for Maverick to ever make an appearance on that, at least right now.
Here's one thing I'll say about that, though. This is true for Indiana for the most part as well. Notre Dame and Indiana have been destroying almost every team on their schedule. Obviously, Notre Dame's loss is horrible.
Yeah, that Northern
And
Illinois
there's
loss
no
sucks.
defending it anymore because NIU's a middle-of-the-pack MAC team right now.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they've taken care of business. It's not like they're just sliding by like Miami is every week. It's not coming down to the wire most weeks. They're going in there and they are beating teams thoroughly. I personally think Notre Dame's appropriately rated right now. If they were to lose another game, I don't know how you could justify them getting in over some of these other 2-loss teams, though, in my opinion. And for the record, I know I mentioned that I think both teams in the SEC championship will get in if one of them has 3 losses at the end of it. If they don't get beat bad, I'll just say that. If the result sucks, I hope this doesn't happen, but if Alabama goes in there against Texas and Atlanta and just gets the doors blown off them, I don't think we're in.
Correct.
And
reverse is true.
In that case, that
I
would
don't
be
think
justified, in
Texas
my
is in.
opinion. Like,
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how these next few weeks go, but if we win out as it stands right now and A&M loses to Texas, we're in. Which I thought was kind of interesting. I didn't know it was that easy. Actually, I think regardless, if we win out right now,
I mean, looking at it right now,
who would be behind us? Ole Miss in that case. Like, if it's not us,
I think Georgia, and I'm sure I don't know all the tiebreakers.
Ole Miss would have the over on Georgia, right?
There's like 6 tiebreakers.
Yeah.
Head-to-head's like the first one, I think. In this case, there's a 5-way tie, 4-way tie.
Basically, the only guarantee somewhat is that a Texas team is going to the SEC championship.
Yeah.
Who else is going?
Unless A&M thoroughly just
unless something miraculous happens on the plains this weekend and Auburn somehow comes up with an upset against A&M, which I mean, I've seen crazier things. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's possible. It's college football. I mean, let's go over the top 12, top 14 right now. The playoff rankings came out today. Number 1, Oregon. They justifiably so. Ohio State, okay. Texas, okay. Penn State, where's their quality wins? Anybody? No? That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
Indiana, Notre Dame, they got one on A&M. I'll give them that. Alabama at 7. Miami, 8. Miami, it finally came to bite them this past weekend.
Yeah,
they're
still the only ACC representative, so
I know.
If somebody beats them in the SEC championship, they're gone.
Clemson's the only one I could see ever giving them a run.
Maybe
for their money.
Yeah,
but that's who I see meeting up. But
I'll just say this: any ACC team could give them a run for their money.
Yeah, that's fair.
Just a matter of who they end up playing. I mean, my God, I've never seen a team just week in, week out sneak by like that. I mean, they did beat the shit out of Florida State and Duke.
That's not meaning
anything. It took them a lot to open it up against Duke. I mean, they're just.
And then after Miami, you've got Ole Miss. And then after Ole Miss, you've got Georgia at 10. And then for whatever these rankings are, it has Boise State 12, BYU 14, and then it has a dash, Tennessee 11, 13 SMU. So Tennessee and SMU looking from the outside in. And you look at it and you're like, all right, well, with them both
rankings.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like, if you look at that, so it'd be right now the number 1 team for the SEC would be Texas. You got Alabama, Yeah, or no, that would be right because there's too many tiebreakers right now, and it is really confusing.
Well, as of right now, BYU is still the only representative for the Big 12. Am I
correct?
Right?
Correct.
Yeah, but they would miss out on the first round bye because Boise State is ranked higher.
Okay.
If things stand today.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And if BYU gets upset, Colorado technically steps up, right? Because Kansas State lost, right? Okay.
Well, BYU lost this past weekend, which was crazy.
That was coming. Was nuts. I knew that was coming.
Yeah. So if everything were to happen the way it is right now, Alabama would play on the road at Notre Dame if the college football playoff happened today. We would go to South Bend and play at Notre Dame. Now that would be, I will say, with history, with fan bases, that is a money game. That is prime with brands. But it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
You think Manti Te'o shows up to that game?
Are you talking about finding his girlfriend?
Sorry.
Oh wait, she didn't exist.
Bad joke.
That's right. Too soon? Oh, I remember.
It is pretty crazy though, looking at these rankings, and SMU, kind of just the throw-in ACC school they added.
Yeah.
Pretty good program. I mean, they were in a good place in the American Conference the past couple years, but they could just come into this conference and take it over. If that's not a slap to the face to the ACC, that's I don't know what it is. I mean, SMU, this smaller program sitting in Dallas, Texas, just looking for the opportunity, and we'll throw you in here. They go and beat Miami in the conference championship.
That would be nuts.
That's awesome.
That would be awesome. Gary. That would be awesome.
That just
not crazy.
That's such an indictment on that conference.
And they're not even making any money
all season, and it just finally caught up to them.
They're not even making any money from the conference. They are literally footing the bill right now for like 2 or 3 years. I think 2 years, and like they're getting nothing. And I'm like, well, this is very fitting because they also can afford to do it. SMU is a school that has a ton of money.
Yep.
And they're someone who in this age of football will strive every year.
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty sure
really
they're
will.
a top 30 recruiting class. In their first year in the ACC, which for a program like that, for a school of that stature,
and if they make the playoff,
it's a really good school, but it's small. I mean, to make the playoff and get a top 30 recruiting class in their first year in a Power 5 conference, Power 4 now. My God, I mean, they're just going to take off.
If that's the case, then if they're a top 30 recruiting class now, let's say they do make the playoff. Let's say that does happen. What happens next year? What, a top 10 recruiting class going to SMU? What, are we back to the 80s now? Pony Express? Go on, baby.
Might be getting all the flips from FSU. They've just been losing commits left and right.
Well, you know what? Maybe it wasn't all about the coaching, was it?
They've screwed themselves for a decade. It's pretty cool.
Is there been any discussion around who takes Boise State's spot if they get upset? I haven't really heard much.
It's going to be Tulane. I'm almost certain of it. Army's still around too. At this point, I just don't think Army beats Tulane.
Yeah, and it would be. I'm not gonna say Army would be awesome to see it in the playoffs, but
that would be nice.
Works against them in this case, where they just honestly have not played anybody.
Well, they have to play Tulane now. I mean, they both clinched the American Conference championship game, but Army has to play Navy. And that game's
that's always fun. Yeah,
16-14 or
doesn't matter what state
you name it. So.
And that's a week after the conference championship, right?
Yeah, it's got its own weekend, basically.
So that See, that's another thing. Well, you've got your automatic bid. You're the group of five, group of four, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. Now you've got your bid in, and then you lose, and that's another loss. You're like, well, how is that more fitting than a 2-loss second or third place SEC team who didn't make it or something like that? Then you start getting into those situations. I was like, well, crap. That sucks. But that's the way it is. That's the way the rules are apparently right now. They're gonna get their group of 5 team in. That's just the way it's structured.
Army does play Notre Dame this weekend. I don't know if we've already said that.
Ooh, no, I did not. No, I forgot about that.
There is that. So Army could be on the outside in after this weekend. But if they were to win the American, and then lose to Navy, I still think they're in.
Oh, I agree.
Especially if Boise State loses. Yeah. I mean, having that Notre Dame win is just huge for them. Boise State is really clinging on to losing to Oregon by 3. The rest of their schedule hasn't been that impressive. They've similarly kind of squeaked by some weeks. They're good enough and more talented than most teams they play that they just open it up most weeks because Gianti's so damn good. But I don't know. That might be a race to watch. I picked Tulane before the season to make it when we did that goofy little bracket thing.
The pick 'em. So, yeah.
I hope I'm proven right. But
it's a very, very high possibility, that's for sure. That is faux show.
Yeah, there's a lot of fascinating topics going around with the college football playoffs. Do y'all think if these going to come down to 4 teams or 5 teams of the SEC that make it in?
I'm gonna say 4.
4. I reasonably, I feel like if you look at the statistics, I feel like you can justify 5. I just don't see them doing it.
Yeah, I see 4.
The only way I see 5 making it in is if Penn State were to go into one of these last 2 games and just get embarrassed.
Yeah.
Indiana plays Ohio State this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, right?
They do, but I just, like I said about Notre Dame, they've gone into this, it's a poor schedule. It's not good. Not a lot of strength on there. They don't have a marquee win. I still think if they go in there Saturday and they play Ohio State hard and lose by even 10 points, they're in. I mean, they've really ran through that schedule for the most part. And, I know Michigan's struggling, but pound for pound, I'd say Michigan probably has higher pedigree for sure. Is also probably more talented. And they won a close game against them. I don't know. Indiana still, I know they're 10-0, but I feel like there's still a slip up in there. But their last game's Purdue.
Yeah, that's a win.
Purdue's quite possibly the worst Power 4 team right now. I mean, I think they're pretty much a lock.
I mean, especially if they beat Ohio State, yeah, they're not going anywhere. They're getting in.
No, if they beat Ohio State, you're going to start seeing things about, that would be what, Ohio State's second loss, right?
Yeah, it would be.
I mean, they already lost to Oregon in Eugene, which Oregon, that's the most complete team I've seen. I mean, they've had a couple close games, but I mean, all around they play hard every week, and so yeah, I mean, after the number 1 team, I mean, it's basically a toss up for the rest. For the remaining 9, there's flaws without all of the teams, or the remaining. I'm sorry, the remaining 11. But yeah, there's flaws everywhere. But when it comes to November, it's about who's getting hot, who's playing their best ball, and right now, I'm very surprised, especially going back to Alabama. We are playing phenomenal ball, and I just hope we can continue this and don't have a setback or get complacent. because that's one of my biggest fears too, is complacency too.
I'll be interested because I know we talked about SEC championship, and let's just say Texas and another SEC team go to it, and Texas loses that championship game. Do they? Because if you look at their schedule, like their biggest game was Georgia, and they got whooped by Georgia. Are they worthy enough to stay in it when it comes to the playoffs? Like,
I think, personally, I think the only way Texas at this point is out is if they lose to A&M, and they don't have a marquee win. Because I think the A&M win would be something that the committee could hang their hat on, for sure. And I don't think they're necessarily wrong for doing that. I think Kyle Field's in an extremely hard place to win. I just personally don't think A&M is that great. It's there's a lot at stake in that game, obviously, because of the SEC championship, and it's a renewal of that rivalry.
Yeah.
Both teams are going to be riding high. It's going to be a bloodbath, I'm sure, but A&M's, they haven't played a very difficult schedule. I mean, their hardest games have been
they did get exposed pretty hard.
Missouri, LSU, and South Carolina. And
Yeah.
South Carolina whooped them.
Yeah, like hard.
LSU
South Carolina is their own category this year. Had they not gotten screwed in that LSU game, and had they actually, finished the game against us, that was two wins right there. Two wins right there. Just they could be
right where Indiana is.
Yeah, exactly. And you're looking at it, you're like, South Carolina? Yeah, South Carolina. Their defense is legit.
Their front seven, particularly their defensive line, is the best in the country.
It's not bad either.
Yeah, it's insane.
See, they're one of those teams
is very good.
They're one of those teams like, could they sneak in? I don't know. I don't think so, but
Stuff has to happen, but they might be a couple weeks here. They go out and they beat Clemson convincingly. They might be
a team to talk about. You're right about that.
And they deserve it, to be honest. I mean, they've played everyone hard. Some young, stupid mistakes against LSU. They needed a prayer to beat Alabama, and it wasn't quite answered. Thank Christ.
Almost. It was
basically just give it to them.
At the time, I was like, how are we? This is pitiful, but they're a really, really good team, and they've proven it pretty much week after week since that game. So kudos to them. And like I said, A&M, LSU is really their marquee win right now. Is LSU that good?
I can tell you what's not good, that defense. No. That defense is not good at all.
Well, Nussmeier throws 4 picks every game. I mean, Christ, they're just
the biggest doofus on field. Like
LSU is what LSU this year is what Arkansas used to be, where it'd be like they're number 22 in the country, they're number 24. You go in and play them, they're 5-2. They're gonna play you hard, but they're never gonna beat you.
LSU's defense was a problem last year. It's just they had Jaden Daniels and that was their whole strategy. Maybe he can outscore you because we certainly can't defend it.
Well, they finished.
Nosebleed.
Yeah. They finish with Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, who are 2 of the worst offenses in the SEC this year.
Vandy could beat them.
If they lose, I was going to say, if Vanderbilt beats them this weekend, what do you do with Brian Kelly? That's 4 straight losses in conference play.
What's the status of his contract?
Yeah, what's that buyout?
Yeah.
Be right back, gentlemen. Y'all take it away.
His buyout's probably too much to even consider.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why he left Notre Dame, but
I feel like you have to know what you're signing up for Brian Kelly. Like, that's just who he is. Like, you're not going to win a national championship. I'm sorry.
Well, he always has this pedigree. He's always had that pedigree that he's the next one. He's going to get that championship.
Yeah.
He's one of the best and that's never won. And right now there's 4 coaches in the country that have won one.
Yeah.
Currently in college football. So to be put in that category with, he's had success, but he's never really won on the big stage. It's just crazy to me. And to go to LSU, where it's a very good program, but you're sort of at a disadvantage because you're going to have to beat Alabama, presumably Georgia, A&M. You're probably going to play Texas once every 2 years, once every 3 years. If you make it far enough, you're likely to see them in the SEC championship, I'm sure, moving forward.
Yeah.
Your schedule's so much harder. The resources probably aren't that much better. If they are, I don't know if they are. He just took a harder job to try to win a national championship. It's just silly. Build a juggernaut at Notre Dame, run through your schedule. You're going to be fresh round one. I know it's hard to recruit there, but
I honestly don't know why LSU fired their previous coach at the end of the day. I don't know.
Ed?
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues on the behind the scenes that were going on. That's probably why they did.
He was the perfect example of a guy that's not a great coach, but is a great
fit for the culture.
So symbolic.
Yes. He was a great recruiter. He was really good for the university. I think he created a culture there that really fit what they were trying to do. But once his assistants left after 2019, it was just,
It was rough. I agree. And it didn't end on a good note. What he get fired? Was it 21 that he got fired?
Mm-hmm.
So 2 years removed from a national title. That's pretty brutal, if you ask me. That's pretty soon. So I can't really disagree with what Murph said on it either. But they wanted that splash higher, right? We always talk about that on here is got to get that big name. Well, Brian Kelly was great at Notre Dame. That was his bread and butter. LSU, he's won a lot of games, but he's lost ones he shouldn't have. And we all know that. And LSU fans, whoever watches this out there, y'all know that too. And, to Hunter's point, or I think it was, I'm sorry, it was Fonzie. You said it. Well, what if Vandy were to beat them this week? You want to pull the plug?
Gotta think about it.
I would say this. You got one more year. Give it one more year. The buyout's less. Heck, Florida gave Billy Napier one more year. So
they should.
I'm
about to be a Billy defender. He went in with all odds against him. They were supposed to suck. Everyone was ripping them. No one gave him credit for how good that roster actually is. Mm-hmm. They're pretty damn good.
Lagway's
great? Good. Heck no. Lagway is excellent. I was not surprised at all they won Saturday. I'm going to be completely honest.
Florida had some tough injuries too. They were close to beating Georgia until they got to their QB3 from Yale.
Yeah, they were. They've hung in there against just about everyone.
Yep.
I know there's plenty to critique with Billy Napier, but I think he's done a great job this year, and I think he's certainly earned one more year.
I don't disagree with it. I don't disagree with that at all. To your point, everybody, I remember talking about the end of last season. They're like, oh, he's on the hot seat. He's going to get fired. There's no way. Well, he makes it into this year, and they're like, well, I give it to game 4 or game 5, and then they can him. Yep. Well, he made them eat their shorts, and you know what? Good for him. Give him another year.
Up in the offseason, I was like, man, does Florida win one game this season?
We even said it on here. Do they win a game? I remember we said, do they win one game?
Yeah.
I don't know. And no, good for him. I agree with that. I think he's going to do. He might make them a competitor next year. They might be a dark horse. I don't know. But
to me, Florida is a middle of the pack SEC school. I feel like I've called everyone that today. But
they're
I feel like they've been trying so desperately to get back to the top, and that's just not the reality right now. I think they'd benefit from 5, consistent, solid years of they shouldn't have fired Dan Mullen.
I agree.
I'll say that right now. But to get back to that level where they're just winning 8 or 9 games every year and just building and building, and you may just hit that one year. And if you hit that one year, then you can just build from there. I don't think they're on a trajectory to get where they were, and I think they're trying to get there so quickly. I think the boosters are a mess there from the few things I've read. I think they're very similar to Auburn, where they're just very quick.
It's very much an Auburn situation.
Run people out of town, and it's just like, be realistic of where you are as a program right now. You've overexceeded this year. You almost beat Tennessee. You were a couple plays away from really making it a game against A&M and Georgia. Texas, you were on your 3rd-string quarterback. That turned bad real quick, but if they make a bowl this year, I think Billy Napier bought himself some time, and I think he fully deserves it. And I think, going into next year, as long as he keeps building, they should keep him around. I mean, he's easy to hate because, that's the media narrative and stuff. And I don't think he's the best coach ever, but those kids respond to him, and it's pretty clear they do, because they're going out there and they're competing every week with, a talented roster, but an inferior one most weeks, and a lot of bad talk about them. So
I agree.
It's kind of fascinating to compare both Auburn and Florida that have somewhat similar situations where they have toxic fan bases, even toxic boosters that have built up this reputation of wanting instant success when they hire a coach, and if he doesn't produce it, get him out the door.
I'm glad you brought
this year, who has had a very tough schedule, if not the toughest schedule in the SEC, versus Auburn, who has had a very easy schedule, if not the easiest, and seeing the results. I mean, I think in that way, you got to get Billy up your credit.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad both of y'all mentioned it too, and I've had this conversation with numerous Auburn fans. I was like, they're like, well, we need to fire Hugh. What do you get out of that? Y'all have literally spent more money than we paid Saban his entire tenure on 4 or 5 different coaches. The longest one you had was Gus, and still that wasn't good enough. So you bring in Hugh, which, everyone's like, well, his record's the same as Harsin, through his tenure. I was like, well, y'all weren't on board with Harsin either. So don't make a comparison.
Well, if Hugh Freeze wins an Iron Bowl, they're going to sign him on for 10 years and then buy him out later. It's like, that's the reputation they built,
And that's the thing, though, is like, and I've told Auburn fans this time and time again, I was like, besides when it comes to the Iron Bowl and the Iron Bowl week, I can talk with fans like that because that one week of the year where we just hate each other, that's just how it is. But I was just like, y'all have got to understand, and you got to get your boosters to understand. Well, first of all, get your donors and boosters out of the main control of the department, because what they need to be there for is to promote and continue to make the program better, continue to build facilities to make the program attractive as well. But, stick with the coach. Have confidence in the coach. Now, there's been things where I have absolutely grilled Hugh Freeze on this year, and I know for a fact that I have. And some of the ways he's thrown some of his players under the bus, I have not agreed with. But at the end of the day, too, maybe that's his coaching style. And, some of the things, their recruiting class in 25 that's coming up that they're about to get, they're top 7. Like, they've got players. Let's see what happens. Give it time. If after, 4, I don't know, when they hired him in 22? I heard him in 22, something like that.
Or early 23, but his first year was last year. So give him 2 more years. Heck, 1 more year. Obviously, don't start talking about
firing the guy, because guess what? You end up right back where you were, trying to find a coach, trying to find the big name hire, and then guess what? It's going to take you 2-3 years to get any kind of result, but you have no patience for it.
Yeah, I know. And you build this reputation where coaches are kind of like, I don't know if I want to go there, you know?
I was just going to say, that is what kills them, is it's so self-destructive as a program.
Yeah.
Because Hugh Freeze wouldn't have coached there if he didn't have all that scandal following him. I guarantee it. Now he was at Liberty for, 5 years?
Yeah.
4 years, but he would have been hired by a much more high-profile program at some point, I'm sure, if all that stuff didn't happen. Not saying Auburn's not a good job.
He would have been at USC or something like that.
Auburn's not a great job right now because of how they treat their coaches. But Auburn has the potential to be.
Does Gus look ever since he's left Auburn? It's
just like I said, it's so self-destructive to just constantly be turning the coach over at every little, really inconvenient season. Auburn realistically is never going to be a perennial contender. They could be. They could prove me wrong. I just don't see that they will. But Gus Malzahn consistently had them super competitive in the SEC. And I think for a school like that, that's all you can ask for.
Right. Especially in this day and age now, where, you finish third, fourth in the SEC, you got a chance to make the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
What more could you ask for? Especially what I'm looking at from, I'm glad you had mentioned, we're bringing up teams like USC. What has Lincoln Riley done? Nothing. Offense, but nothing, no result. But let me tell the Auburn fans out there this: we Alabama fans, we faced this 20 years ago. We had, after Gene Stallings, Mike Price, Mike Dubose, Dennis Franchione, then or in that order, not the right order, but Mike Price, Mike Dubose, Mike Shula, and Dennis Franchione. There was no stability in the program at all. And then Saban came, and then you had 17 years of steadiness. But the donors weren't in his ear either, from what we as the common fans know, obviously. So patience is my word of advice. Just let's see how it plays out.
Yep.
See how it plays out. But other than that, a little NFL talk. Got to give some praise to Mr. Fonzie's Steelers over there. They are
Roswell, the MVP of the Steelers.
They're looking good. They're finding ways to win. They've won 8 of 9 against the Ravens. Past 9 times out against them.
Pretty great.
Ravens defense is awful, so I knew if y'all could lock up their offense, you're good.
Well, we couldn't do anything against their defense, but I'll take it.
Win the game, not scoring any touchdowns, right? Is that what I heard?
There's always 6 field goals. There's always a little more to that game too. Big rivalry. So we got the Browns on Thursday.
Good old J-Mo Winston.
That's an easy trap game. Don't feel great about that. But 8-2, comfortably on top of the AFC North, so can't complain too much. Russ has looked good, except for last week. Defense can actually breathe, so they're playing really well.
George Pickens is a menace to society when he does.
George Pickens has been great.
Literally assaults
weeks too.
Guys on the ground. Well, that's why you don't get hurt. Leaves. All right.
Their best season in a while.
Props to Mike Tomlin too. He's done a great job.
Gonna have a little shout out to Hunter's Dolphins there. Didn't they get a win this past weekend?
Yeah, they sure did. I was busy watching the Falcons lose to a 30-year-old rookie with the Broncos.
It's okay.
Very nice.
No, Bo Nix is going to win Rookie of the Year, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think
he'll be the oldest rookie.
He's been playing. He proved me wrong big time.
He been playing big. I literally am playing him in our fantasy league. I am playing him over Patrick Mahomes. How freaking crazy is that? Patrick Mahomes is having his worst fantasy season, probably his worst season statistical wise he's had in the league. And then Bo Nix, I literally just said, I did it for just giggles. I was like, I'll just go pick him up. He's got enough experience, playing for like college football for like 8 years. So, maybe that'll help. But
from my experience, Mahomes and Kelsey have very slow starts of the season and don't really go off till the playoffs. That's why I don't really pick him anymore.
And Mahomes just throws the ball so much, so his turnovers are higher.
Yeah.
Basically by default. I mean, he's been bad this year, but
he hadn't really had anybody to throw to. I mean, they picked up Hop, but which I think was a great help, but I don't know how much it's going to be a game changer.
I picked up Kareem Hunt, and that's helped me now, but now Pacheco's supposed to be back, so I got to figure out that.
Yeah, go get Pacheco. Pacheco's better. Kareem's old. He was a great pickup, secondary running back, but other than that, well, we've got. In closing, we've got Oklahoma this week, Saturday night, 6:30. Y'all have any predictions on the final score for that game?
Ooh, nothing but
35-10. Alabama.
It's a fair.
I'll say 29-17.
29-17.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. I'll have to say, I'll say 32-15. We'll go 32-15. Not easy points to get to, of course. There've got to be some, a couple field goals in there, and the addition doesn't really add up when it comes to touchdowns and whatnot. But you know what? It's all good. It's all good. We all got our own opinions on it, but I think good show, guys. For everybody who came out and watched the show tonight, I appreciate that. Remember to always like and subscribe. We like to see the viewers out there and the listeners. Your support is always appreciated. Can't say a big thank you enough to the Way Offsides guys, part of that program too, to make sure to tune into them on Thursday night, 8:00 Central Time. You'll get some good insight here, and then in the next couple of weeks, we've got a big episode coming up if all things go to plan. End of the season podcast is going to be real nice, be real interesting to see how this season wraps up. But other than that, guys, I got nothing else to say. Y'all got anything else?
Nope.
It'll be fascinating at the end of the year with the removal of divisions in the SEC, how people feel. I feel like it's definitely contributed to the chaos this year.
Agreed. Well, so much to see, so much to learn, and we're ready for it. So, roll Tide, guys.
Roll Tide.
Oh.